In today's Your Questions Answered, I have a question that comes up quite a bit. What do I use for cleaning up metal parts when restoring hand planes or any other hand tools or anything for that matter? So I've got a few things here, so let me bring you in here and I'll just talk you through some of the different products I use. I'm not sponsored by any of these people, but these are just products and brands of products that I've been using for a while and they work well, so let's have a look at them. First of all, we'll just look at general cleanup. So I just have a couple of plastic tubs. These are what I soak tools in, and we'll talk about what I soak them in. I wash a lot of the componentry off with just soapy water. It doesn't really matter what sort of soapy water, but any sort of soapy water, warm soapy water, cold soapy water, it doesn't really matter. You just want to break down any greasy parts, but generally what I'll do first is I'll squirt them with a degreaser like this heavy duty one that I've got here, and hose that off, and then I'll give them a good rinse to get any of the other dirt and whatnot off them. I just find before I bring them in and dunk them into liquids like vinegar or evaporust, you need to make sure the grease is off for it to work properly, and so I don't dirty my cleaning water faster, I give them a quick degrease first and a hose down before I bring them in. So I use paper towel. This is just sort of a more heavy duty scourer if you've got some really stubborn parts. And the other thing that I sometimes use along with that is just the grey Scotch-Brite like this, which is similar to the steel wool, and we'll get to that in a minute. So along with these containers, I just have a nylon bristled brush for really getting in there and cleaning things out. And then I get on to what I'm going to put in these containers. So I just want to look at the two rust removal liquids I use, Evaporust and vinegar. Now, I've used vinegar a lot more than the Evaporust, but I wanted to see what the Evaporust was all about, and while it does work well, you can reuse it. It is a lot more expensive than the vinegar, and so I think for a beginner option, vinegar is great, but you just want to note that you do want to counteract the acidity of your vinegar with something like baking soda when you're done. Maybe technically you don't have to if you really rinse it down well, which is what I used to do before I started using the baking soda in there, but peace of mind, it's not a bad option. And I did do that process in the video where I restored this hand plane here using vinegar, so I'll leave that link down below. Denatured alcohol is something else that I use. Obviously, I've got this on hand for mixing my shellac. This is 100% DDA, which means there's no water in it at all. And back to abrasives again. So 4/0 steel wool is great for getting in on little parts where you can't get your fingers in to clean them. Now, along with this, you could also use that light grey Scotch-Brite that I mentioned before. That does a good job as well and doesn't fall apart as much as the fine steel wool, the 4/0 steel wool. Now, along with that, you can use some sort of a micro-abrasive paste like Tormek paste or Aussiewoodshed. I actually ran out of Tormek paste a little while ago and I haven't replaced it. Obviously, I have a Tormek and that's why I had it, but Aussiewoodshed works just as well. It's just a fine micro-abrasive paste, so anything like that will work quite well and allows you to get in on any of the depth adjuster wheels and in through some of these areas where you got lateral adjusters and little tiny gaps, so it's good for getting in and cleaning those up, but I find that it works particularly well at cleaning up any brass parts. So we've also got wet and dry sandpaper of various grits. This is 800, 240 and some 1500. Some grits like that, sometimes a little bit higher, and they work well, in my opinion, when you're doing restorations on your panel saws, like say this panel saw. Because it's long, they're usually too long and too difficult to put into a container and submerge, or you require too much liquid, so I tend to just use sandpaper to restore these. But you want to be careful if you're trying to maintain any etching that is on the surface, because sandpaper, even very fine sandpaper, can remove it, and so you might want to go light to start with until you notice whether there's an etch or not. Or maybe you can get a giant total tub that you can get your blade submerged in, and that would be ideal. But to date, I still haven't found anything, so I just tend to use the sandpaper, but the sandpaper definitely does come in handy. Even after you've used things like a Evaporust, it'll sometimes leave like a grey tarnishing to the surface and some very fine Sandpaper, like I've got here, actually does really well at bringing up that luster on the surface as well. So, I mean, you might be flattening it afterwards, after you've had it in the evaporust, putting it on a flat surface and rubbing it on sandpaper. So sandpaper is good for that. It's good for flattening the soles of items and all that sort of thing. So I think sandpaper, particularly wet and dry in various grits, will come in very handy for you. And then the last thing that I use here, which is not really related to the restoration as such, is some decent nitrile gloves. The rust can really stain your skin, and if you're working with vinegars and things like that, it's best not to get it on your skin. Even things like evaporust, which say it's safe, I still don't like to get that on my skin, so gloves, vital part of any restoration to stop you getting filthy. And even what I'm wearing here, an apron, is actually a very good option, because when I've restored some hand saws and things with sandpaper and whatnot, you get a lot of rust and rusty dirt that goes everywhere, all over your clothes. I mean, if you're wearing clothes that you're going to wash, that's fine, but I think an apron is another great little addition there, but maybe not essential to the actual restoration process. Now, some other special mentions here that other people use, and I have used in the past, is wire wheels. If you can get any of the nylon wheels with the same sort of bristles as this, that works well too. Another mention that I thought I'd put in here, which is not really related to removing and keeping your metal parts clean per se, and that is something to actually prevent the rust or oxidization of the surface after you've removed your rust. You don't want them to re-rust. And so things like homemade paste wax, bought paste wax, or 3-in-1 oil are some good products to use that are fairly cheap and inexpensive to get the job done. There are obviously other specialist rust removal or rust preventative products out there, and so they are some other options, but not something that I've worked with. So if you like this video, please do like and subscribe down below. While you're down there, please do sound off in the comments whether I've missed something out here in the products that I use here for cleaning rust off my metal parts. Maybe you have something that you use that I haven't included here, so do leave that down in the comments below. It'd be much appreciated to share that with everyone. And if you'd like to see another great video such as the one you've seen here today, do check out the video up here where I show you how to restore a hand plane using vinegar, and also I'll leave the list here on how I prevent rust on my tools. Bye for now.